Like I moved to Calgary because the Hearts told me to. Bruce and a couple of brothers told me to move there. And when I got there, they'd sold the Heart House. They told me a couple of things that just wasn't right, but it was too late. I already moved my entire life. I had a 2-year visa, and I'm like, I can't just go home. I've been telling thousands of kids through my youth work with Jim Steins, who's a big figure here in the community, telling all these kids to chase your dream and live your dream. And even though I'm 60 kilos, I'm going to go do this. And everyone believed in me. And I went there, and I was told I wasn't ever big enough to be a pro wrestler. I was told I'm just going to be a referee or a manager, and that I wasn't going to make it, and there's no point. And when you're 18 years old in another country on your own, and you get your dream just shattered like right in front of your face, you're kind of stuck with two questions. You're either, do I just stick it out and push through, or do I just go home? And I couldn't bring myself to go home. I just stayed, and I just kept working. I worked 2 jobs over there. I lived an hour south of Calgary, so it took me ages to get everywhere. And then out of nowhere, Lance decided to stop teaching at OVW and in developmental, and open his own one in Calgary the same year that I was there, by fate. And it's a funny story. I literally wrote a resume to him. I put a deposit, and I express posted it to his PO box. It cost me I paid $45 for an express post to get it to him. And then a week later, I got a letter back in the mail, and I remember holding it up to the light because I was like, is this the right thing? And I saw my check still in there, and I was like, oh, I didn't get in, man. Like, I didn't make it. And I opened it, and it was a receipt. So I did make it.
What a relief.
Right.
Gotta open it first.
Mate, look at me. Typical filler, right? I'm just like, I was about to rip up the paper. I was all depressed. And it said I made it, and I was going to be one of his first students in his first class. And that, I still have the letter at home, actually. It's at my school, that I was in good hands with him. And later that week, he actually called me, and he goes, I actually live around the corner from you. If you want, I can drive you to class every morning because you're around the corner. And the crazy thing was, he laughs now because I paid $45 for a man to grab it like this and put it where I could have put it. Because the post office I was at is the same post office he lived, like it's around the corner.
Uh-huh.
And he still laughs because you paid a guy $45 to do what you could have done. I didn't know that, did I? So that was me just panicking. But yeah, so it worked out amazingly, because then we would drive to school for almost 30 to 45 minutes every day. And at first I was terrified. I was so scared. I was too scared to say anything. And then we would talk every day. Then he would drop me off at the station because I'd go to work right after. And it was like that every single morning. And then we became friends because I'd see him every day and we talk every day. And I was one of the, there was only 5 of us in the first class, and I picked it up very quickly, and I was the top of his class. So, it probably helps that I think maybe our relationship would be different if I wasn't good at wrestling, but I just happened to be, I was good at it, and we got along really well. And to the point where he chose me to be in the debut match at Stampede Wrestling. And then he got me my second booking at Stampede Wrestling again. And then he got us booked in this native Canadian reserve, which is 2 hours away in the middle of nowhere. And the promoter was telling him, typical wrestling again, there's going to be 500 people here. It's going to be packed. And at these reserves, I'm not sure if you know, but at these reserves, they all get their welfare check on the same day. And what they do is the promoters run shows on the same day, so they spend their money on the wrestling instead of food and things are important. Horrendous. But they did this. And when we got to the show, there was 4 people. I wrestled in front of 4 people, or 5 if you include Lance. And Lance is filming it in the bleachers, laughing, he's giggling. You hear him giggling, but I'm still doing all my spots and trying to work the crowd. And there's one dude in the crowd, he's clapping. He's clapping with me. Then he looks around and realizes there's no big way. He just stops clapping.
No one else in the 4-person crowd was.
That story reminds me of a horror story that Ro and I actually lived in the early days of the wrestling scene here, where there was this sham promoter who booked us into this covered court that was used as a refugee center for people whose homes had burned down. So they
Oh, wow.
evacuated all the fire victims, set up the ring there, and there were only 3 paying customers. And everyone who'd been
Oh,
evacuated they were peering through the chicken wire fence outside.
that is unbelievable. Oh my God, that is crazy. Oh man, yeah, we were there, and I remember it's funny because like we left because of course I was happy because I'm like, hey, I still got the one guy to clap. There was 4 of them, and I worked him, and one of them fell. So I remember we left that day. We're driving, and he was asking us what we're doing for Christmas, and I was like, look, man, I get to sleep in. I work 2 jobs. I haven't seen the sun for like a year because I get up before the sun goes up, and then I go home when it's down. So I'm like, hey, I get to sleep. And he goes, well, look, I've got a big family Christmas dinner. You're more than welcome to come along and have Christmas dinner with me and my family. There's 13 of us. So, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have Christmas dinner with, okay, that's fine. And now I'm going to embarrass myself because like, what do you wear? What would you wear? Okay, so let me ask you quickly: if your hero that you've just trained with for 3 months and you've had a few matches in front of him, and he's very proud of you, and he goes, "Hey, come to Christmas dinner with his family. What are you wearing?"
You have to wear the best that you've got, right?
Right?
Christmas
Dress to the
sweater? I think
nines.
you gotta blend in. I mean, like, I don't think anyone's dressing up for Christmas dinner. I think you just gotta go in your sweater and stuff like that.
Okay, well, so we got sweaters and one dress and nights. Well, I didn't know what to wear, so I'm like, I don't even really have clothes there, so I wore a suit. Right? I wore like,
There you
oh,
go.
how embarrassing!
The
I wore like slacks and like a dress shirt, and then I knock on the door. He opens it and he goes, "You look nice." And he's in he's in his jeans and a tank top and a fanny pack, and I'm like, oh man. And I look and his entire family is just dressed normally. I'm like, well, this is the start. So yeah, I spent Christmas dinner there and got to know his whole family, and it was amazing. And then that's why I think because I after that I went back home and surprised my mom for her birthday, and then I went back to Canada for just a 2 week holiday. And I wanted to I hadn't seen the country. I hadn't done anything. I lived there for almost a year and a half and just wrestled and trained and worked. So I went there for 2 weeks, and Lance had just blown his knee out and had to get a scope in Japan. And he said to me, I just said to him, I go, look, man, like if you want, I can stay in Canada without a visa for 6 months, right? And I can take all the bumps for you. I just, if you want me to stay, let me know. And his wife was like, Lance is very stubborn. He's going to say no, but can you just stay? Because it'll help him a lot. And I said, okay, I'll ask him. And I asked him, and he said, yes, can you stay? He wasn't even stubborn. He was like, yeah, can you stay? And I said, yeah, if you have any hookups, I need a place to stay. So I spent all my money partying and going out and enjoying my life for 2 weeks. And he said to me, look, my kids love you and my wife love you. We have a spare room in our basement. So you can, if you want, you can live at our house. So for 6 months in my first year of wrestling, I was living in Lance's basement and I'd babysit his kids. We'd go to class every day, come back home. He'd drop me off at work. He'd give me curfews. It was wild. Like I remember, we'd all go to the gym together, and the boys were like, "Hey, Carl, you gonna come hang out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can." And Lance was like, "What time? What time are you finishing there?" I'm like, he goes, "Dinner's at 6." I'm like, "Okay, yes." And they're like, "Man, Lance's like your dad." I'm like, "He is my dad. Like, I can't be late." So, I literally was like, his daughters, they called me the brother they never had. So I was just, yeah, I went from being, this gigantic fanboy growing up to literally being Lance's adopted son